to I want to speak to this carefully a little bit, that have verifiable proof that some of those processes work and you actually can obtain more freedom and become more financially abundant through doing said processes. But even setting that aside, I think it's a complete mindset shift in that I don't believe that any men or women inside government or outside of government have any right to tell me what to do. And I have no obligation to comply with them. And I set my own moral standards. And I think if everyone took on that approach, that would bring about collective freedom in a way that we could never dream of by voting. And that's assuming that voting even works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that note, like to add on to that, I think something you get out of that is you're not jerked around by the news cycle and the politics of it. Because when you're hooked into that and you have like high stakes attached to that, it's not a fun way to live. There's a lot of reactivity. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of just like bracing for horrible things to happen. When you don't believe in that legitimacy and you see the system for what it is, like, okay, I don't have to worry about that every day because it doesn't matter to me who has power. The system itself is illegitimate.
Qualifying statement on that, though, that's coming up for me. And I think you'd agree with this because this is what you've been talking about lately. And I think this is a perfect segue. There is a lot of voluntarists, a lot of anti-state people who are glued to the news cycle and glued to what they are doing, perpetually pointing the finger.
Yeah.
And I went through that phase. I know you've talked about how you went through that phase too. But I think it's really important that we evolve past that as well, because if we're truly going to be free, we need to be free in our nervous system, as you're saying. So I'd love for you to just brain dump on where you're at with this.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So first, if you're angry, if you are like rageful, that's valid. I don't like, the point here is not to say like, well, you shouldn't feel that way, because that's a healthy reaction to what we see every single day, the nature of the system, the specifics of how the system manifests itself, like the healthy reactions to be like, absolutely not, and to feel something about it. But I think the problem that I experienced was getting hooked into that. And I used to run a news organization, like the anti-media, like we had a big following before we were banned.
So you literally had to be hooked to the news.
Every single day I was like, every day scrolling Reddit for the news, like seeing what horrible thing happened today, who's suffering, who was murdered, who was bombed, like how many children died in this bombing overseas? Like, and there's a point in time where I think it is important to know those things, because you have to be shaken out of the indoctrination and the haze.
And you have to know what leads to that.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. It's important to know, but it gets to a point where it's detrimental to your well-being to stay hooked into that, because it's like a biological response. It's not just it is in your head because your brain is reacting, but you're caught in like constant fight or flight. There's this reactivity to it. And for me, I didn't want to live that way. It doesn't feel good. It feels good at first. You're like, you know better. I know better. And these people are stupid and I have the answers. Like, okay. But even that starts to feel like it has the same, for me, like the same somatic feeling as being angry at the state. Like, even though yes, I'm right. But like, what is it? Like a gripping in my chest, like my heart's beating faster. Like there's this like agitation to it. And for me, maybe this isn't true for everyone, but for me, I'm not free when I'm caught. And like, to bring it back to the state, like, then you're still a slave to the state. Right. If your emotional well-being and your emotional state depends on the government and what the government is doing, how are you